Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send me a donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Peace, peace, peace. What it is, it's your brother Tyvon Swainell, a.k.a. the Orthodox Moor, a.k.a. the Seven Pillar Saracen. Coming at you on this Friday evening. I hope y'all had a good week, man. It was an interesting week for me. Been a lot of back and forth, a lot of interesting conversations and whatnot. A lot of topics to talk about. Let me play this right quick. But yeah, I wanted to talk about a couple of topics in particular tonight. I wanted to talk about the Lemba migrations because we recently had Brother Kohen Hamandishe from the Lemba tribe on for a good interview. I linked that interview down in the description. I also linked the interview with him and Sister E. I also put his Facebook and also his monetary information so you can donate to his ministry also in the description. And just so I can refresh everybody on that, there's his information in terms of his Facebook and website. And then here is his information in terms of where you can send him direct donations or whatnot. So you can quickly copy that down. You can pause this up and copy down when you need to, etc. But with that, family, I wanted to talk about a couple of things concerning that interview and also some conversations I just had being on the Dagger Squad panel with GARFIELD and NGOZI and NGOZI, etc. whatnot. Because there's been a lot, like I said, a lot of interesting conversation concerning the Lemba, their migration, people claiming Lemba DNA, people talking about Gedmatch and are they using the right programs and formulas and are they using the right projects in Gedmatch, etc. whatnot. So yeah, just to kick it all off, I wanted to get off into a small presentation, getting into what the Kohen had talked about in his interview with us, talking about his migration and whatnot. During our talk and whatnot, our interview and whatnot, he had to go look for a few things at one point. And so when he did so, I actually brought up a couple of slides to go check out or whatnot. And I want to actually go through that presentation so we can give some historical background to some of the things that the Kohen was saying, because it was very interesting. And I thought it was interesting because, like I said, it matched up with some things I've been reading in a book that recently came out by Sister Dana Marnichi Reynolds. If you don't know her, she is a very, very powerful scholar. She's an ethno historian, a biographer, etc. whatnot. And she has works in the golden age of the Moors and whatnot, etc. with Ivan Van Sertima, where she does an ethno history of the Moors there, which is fantastic, which eventually I'll talk about and how it ties into this conversation with the Kohen. But the sister also came out with the book. Let me see if I got a picture of it in this StreamYard or not. Let me double check, family. Let me double check for you real quick. Where do I have that picture? Just give me 1 second, family. Excuse me. I'm trying to find a picture I have. I might not have uploaded it. My fault. But getting back to it. There it is. So she wrote an ethno history of the Moors and the golden age of the Moors, but she just recently came out with this book here, The African and Arabian Origins of the Hebrew Bible, by Sister Dana Reynolds Marnichi. And what's interesting about that is she says a lot of things that, again, like I say, confirm what the Kohen has said when the Kohen came on the program and whatnot. He said that they migrated from Israel to Yemen, and then from Yemen to Mozambique, and then from Mozambique to Zimbabwe. And so, real quick, I just wanted to give some historical credence to what the brother was talking about. So I'm gonna share my screen right quick. There we go. Yes, y'all can see the screen. That's what's up. Let me make this a bit bigger. And we got the Lemba, the people of the dub, from Babylon to Yemen. Again, when you hear him talk, in his interview with me and his interview with Sister E or whatnot, he gives, and also with other videos he has on the internet and whatnot, he gives some breakdown scripturally for what he's talking about and whatnot. So first off, this is Ezra 10:3. Now, therefore, let us make a covenant with our God to put away all the wives. And this is when the Israelites were coming out of Babylon and whatnot, right? He talked about the fact that their migration began from this point, and that they were ousted because they were people who had married foreign wives, foreign women and whatnot, right? And so the children and the wives are put away. So he gives some scriptural background for that. So Ezra 10:3. Now, therefore, let us make a covenant with our God to put away all the wives and such as are born of them, according to the counsel of my Lord, and of those that tremble at the commandment of our Lord, and let it be done according to the law. And then Ezra 10:5, it explains, then arose Ezra and made the chief priests, the Levites, and all Israel to swear that they should do according to this word, and they swear. So the Kohen talked about a large population of the Levites being sent away and whatnot, and that some of them were fully grown and even older than he was, and maybe in their 70s because they've been in captivity for many decades, etc. and whatnot. So he's saying that the migration begins with them being cast out because of the Levites marrying foreign women, etc. and whatnot. And so the children of those foreign women and the foreign women themselves were cast away. We're going further. And these had taken strange wives, and some of them had wives by whom they had children, etc. whatnot. Like I was just saying, Ezra 10:44. But I wanted to back this up again with some of what I've been reading in this new book from Sister Dana Marnichi, again, The African and Arabian Origins of the Hebrew Bible. This is from page 172 of that book, where the sister talks about a clan of Levites in Yemen. So real quick, the 9th century. Let me fix this real quick. Pardon the typo, but the 9th century Persian Yemenite Wahab ibn Munabi was Jewish, spoke of the lineage of Banu el-Harith, the Banu el-Harith tribe, from whom came several of the more recent Zakhran tribes of Asir. Wahab wrote of the priestly line of Eleazar. He is Elias bin Yasin bin Finhas bin Al-Izar bin Harun bin Imran. Allah sent him to the children of Israel after his Calor, Ezekiel, peace be upon him. And so, just so you understand, this would be Phineas or Finhas. This is the Arabic for that. Al-Itzar, this would be the Arabic for Eleazar. So this is Finhas, the son of Eleazar, and this is Harun. This is how you say Aaron or Aaron in Arabic. So this is Phineas, the son of, Phineas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron. Again, this is also saying the son of Imran, which is this is the Arabic way of saying Amram, the father of Aaron and Moses, etc. So again, they're saying that a Persian Yemenite Jewish person from the 9th century recorded a group of people who claimed that their descendancy was from this priestly line of Eleazar. And again, going further on page 174 and 175 of this book, The African and Arabian Origins of the Hebrew Bible by Dana Marnichi. It says that these Banu el-Harith, also bin Ka'ab or Ba'al Harith, according to Al-Hamdani's description of Arabia, were a branch of the Eleazar or Al-Itzar, which belonged to Azd, and this lineage is in fact again, same thing. I'll say this in English so you understand it. So Eleazar, son of Aaron, son of Imran. So Al-Itzar bin Harun bin Imran. The same concept. So you have a people claiming to have a Levitical lineage in Yemen. The tribe of Banu el-Harith or Ba'al Harith mentioned in modern maps are located in the vicinity of the Shaba region of Hadramaut in Yemen, not far from a district called Jardan, where the tribes of Mansur or Manasseh and Nimrah are found. Again, these are people you can find these are names you can find in the Bible, etc. But this area of the Hadramaut, this is where Sinna is located, where Kohen Hamandishe said that they went to and they helped set up a city. So going further into that, well, let me bring this up as well. That Al-Hamdani, the person that I just read, right, his source, or that source that I just read from Hamdani, he's a 10th century Yemenite Muslim from Banu Hamdan, from the Banu Hamdan tribe, a well-known Sabian clan that dates back in Yemen to the first millennium BCE. Al-Hamdani was a geographer, a chemist, a poet, a grammarian, a historian, and an astronomer. He wasn't just a nobody writing this. And he's from the area, and he's from the area for a long time. His people have been there for a long time. But just going further real quick. Let me check, see if there's any questions in the chat real fast. Okay. You know, let me make this big. No, it's okay like that. Again, so Kohen Hamandishe was talking about Sinna in Yemen, right? About this city that was built in Yemen. And it needs to be understood it's distinct from Sana'a, that's in Western Yemen, and Sana'a, that's in Oman. Okay. Sinna is in Eastern Yemen. Like I said, in the Hadramaut. Sinna is an abandoned and ancient town in Yemen located in the remote eastern Hadramaut Valley. Sinna was a thriving Jewish city at the time of the Babylonian Empire around 500 BCE and is believed to have been dominated by Israelites who fled Jerusalem during the Babylonian invasion. They crossed the Jordan into Yemen, believing they were safe in the valley of the east, crossing the Masala River. This is from a book of Warriors, Lovers, and Prophets, Unusual Stories from South Africa's Past by Max Dupree, page 172. So just so you get an understanding, so that the Hadramaut area is where, the Hadramaut region is where Sinna is found. It is found close to this, to where the Aran region is found in the Hadramaut region there. There is a Sana'a in the western part there you see in the Azai region on the western part, but that is not it. We're talking about Sinna in the east. So in the Hadramaut, this is also from an article, The Real Black Genesis, Demythologizing the First Peoples of the Book by Dana Reynolds Marnichi. She quite often talks about how the Arab sources talking about how the Hadramaut was the darkest part of Arabia in terms of skin tone. And so here, these are modern pictures of dancers from the Hadramaut and from women and a woman thereof from northern Yemen, from northern Yemen. And so you can see how dark they are to this day. So on multiple levels, you can see to where, if this is like where the area of Sheba is at, right? And people that are this darker one, you can see to where the Lemba would have felt safe there. One, it's a Jewish kingdom. Two, they get to blend in. We're going further. Again, you can see on the map here where you have Sana'a on the northwestern part of Yemen. But if you go to the east, you can see where it says Sena, S-E-N-A. This is the area where Kohen Hamandishe was talking about. And again, you can see where he talks about they get in a boat and sail to Mozambique. We're going further. Again, that's in the upper right-hand part of the picture there, Sena. This is Sena. These are the ruins of Sena. And what's interesting about this is when I first saw this, I was like, wow, that reminds me of a lot of stuff I've seen in Mali and Timbuktu, etc. whatnot. Very interesting. I'll be touching on that on Monday. But yeah, this is Sena. These are the ruins of Sena, etc. And this was a map that the Kohen talked about, to where he said he was talking about how Lemba was near the land of Moab, etc., and that they were surrounded by the Moabites, etc. and whatnot. I thought that was extremely interesting. But yeah, there was something that came out in the interview that I thought was also interesting, in the sense to where in the interview he had with me and the interview he had with Sister E, he also talked about he believed that there were Lemba that ended up in the transatlantic slave trade, that they went from East Africa and ended up into the transatlantic slave trade some way, shape, or form. And what's interesting about that is I recently just did a video on my channel, MX Ministries. Go check that one out. You can go check out my other channel, the Orthodox More, as well. And on the channel MX Ministries, I did another presentation to where I showed I actually showed an East African slave trade, or excuse me, East Africans being taken to the West. A lot of people don't know about this. And it's something that I recently came across. As a matter of fact, having done some research on the Lemba and having talked with Kohen, because he sparked me to actually do some research on this. So when I delved into it, I found a couple of things. But before I play that, before I get into that, I want to play something for y'all real quick. I want to play something that I just encountered dealing with the Dagger squad. Hold on right quick. So I was on the Dagger squad earlier on the panel and talking about the Lemba and then talking about DNA, etc. whatnot. So I'm going to play a couple of their clips right quick, and then I'm going to give this small little presentation. So here we go.
That's fair. The Orthodox More, you up? What you got to say, brother?
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions on your position on Israelites in West Africa, and then the Lemba overall. All right,
hold on. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Hold on a second. Me and NGOZI, we have a section for you. Right now, we need.
I got a quick question for NGOZI, right quick, so I can understand what he was saying. Though.
All right, go ahead.
So, just so I understand, for the people who are Israelite in America claiming that they're connected to the Lemba, you're saying that's not correct in the sense that when their DNA connected, we connect to their Bantu to the Lemba Bantu DNA, not the Semitic DNA within the Lemba, correct?
Yes, partially right. Partially, it's more to
partially right. Correct. There's more to it than that. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You could tell that you actually understand. I respect that question. I respect that. But we gonna talk about. He said it earlier. But NGOZI, I gotta slow you down on the video, man. I gotta do a.
For real.
Yeah, because you already said it. You already answered all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hold on. So I got that question in. And then I got to get these questions in as well. So so check out this answer by GARFIELD right quick, and NGOZI.
Orthodox Moore, you had a question that you wanted to ask, and we skipped over you. So go ahead and then
the two quick clarification questions. So one, Brother NGOZI, what is your position on the Gedmatch projects that tell the people that say they're connected to Lemba that those particular projects also match them up to Yemenite, Ethiopian, and Moroccan Jews? And the second question to Garfield, was it your position earlier that no East Africans were taken into the transatlantic slave trade into the West?
Yeah, my position is that, I mean, there were people taken from North, but not from the East. There's some few people taken from the North, not necessarily from the East Africa. East Africa people were taken in the during the time when the Muslims were in charge. They did take them to several different places. You know, that's why when people talk about the 400 years, you got to be careful, because there's the people from the East that were taken on ships. So if they want to play that game, and they've been in the land for over 400 years as slaves. So these are things that's going on outside of our world that's happening on that side of the continent. All right. But as far as taken to America, I'm not aware of that. Maybe that's something I missed in school, but I don't know about that. NGOZI, the next question.
I was going to say again, even those people that you talk about that were stripped from East Africa, the Arabians took, or some of them that possibly came through the Portuguese and traded somewhere in the Iberian Peninsula with the British or whatever, they were primarily Bantu speakers. You're not going to find a Habesha slave over here. You're not going to find a Somali slave over here. You're not going to find a Oromo slave over here. You're not going to find a melodic slave over here. You find primarily Bantu speakers that was being taken in those zones. And for us, and that came to America, we are really Mendi, Fulani, Yoruba, Alactic Congo speakers, Volta Congo speakers, those type of people. You're not going to find, you might find, like you say, the East Africans, but what type of East Africans are they taking? They're not taking Somalis. They're not taking Oromos. Somalis was embedded with Islam, and they didn't look, they still treat Somali Bantus bad and call them Jegara. That's the term that they use, Jegara. Look it up, or if you're around Somalis, you'll understand. Even with, like my mother being Fulani, and I'm going to say this, Fulanis are flunkies. They were the ones that caused a lot of jihad in the Sahel. So what I'm saying is that you got to look at the mindset of what was going on with people in Africa at that time. So even if you're talking about East Africans that was taken, that's not talking about Habesha, Oromo, or Somali. You're talking about Bantu speakers that was taken. Bantu speakers. Even the ones that went into Zanzibar, who Al-Jahiz was a descent in Arabia, that went over there in Baghdad or whatever. Those were people that was Bantu speakers. Those are Bantu speakers, the Zaj.
So what was your position on the Gedmatch projects?
Okay, now with Gedmatch, you got to be careful with Gedmatch. You got to be careful, because what Gedmatch do is you take a DNA test through 23andMe Ancestry and take your raw data and upload it. And it shows you the population that you have close affinities to. What part of the DNA that's been abstracted or taken away through the raw data when it reads your overall autosomal DNA composition? What connects you to Yemen and certain parts of Ethiopia is talking about the African part. It's not talking about the Middle Eastern part. The brother talked about earlier when Brother Garfield was reading from the abstract, you find the sub-Saharan African component over there in the Middle East. We talked about that. Where did it come from? It comes from, a lot of it comes from the slave trade that was when they were importing sub-Saharan African women. And you also have an early L3 branch that went over there. And even with the Ethiopian Jews, the Falasha Jews aren't even really, when they looked at their genetics, they're not even really Semitic. I'm sorry, they're not really Eurasian. They're not as much Eurasian as the Habeshan. You get what I'm saying when you look at their genetics? So the Falasha Jews, when you look at that mitochondrial DNA, you find a lot of the mitochondrial DNA in East Africa that you find in West Africa. So the part of the DNA that's similar to Yemenese people is talking about the African component. It's not talking about the Middle Eastern component. Now, and if you use Ethio-helix on Gedmatch, it abstracts the African component. Now, when you go into the European part of Gedmatch, they go back into your Neolithic components through Europe, which links you to the Middle East. So like your British blood, let's say you're 23% British. What makes up a British person? Europeans are phases of three group populations that came together to see the Europeans that we see today. Mesolithic Europeans, Neolithic Europeans that came out of Anatolia, and the Yemenites that came from the Russian steppes who brought the Indo-European language. If you go further into your British DNA, you're going to find ties to the Anatolian area or the near Caucasus. You're also going to find ties with ancient Mesolithic Europeans. So Gedmatch goes further back in time into your DNA as it takes your raw data. It goes further back in time to read the affinities that you have with certain people that exist in ancient times. So you got to be careful and learn how to, understand how to read Gedmatch and what's going on.
It goes back to the Lemba real fast. Watch this. You know, we talked about this many moons ago, how males from Middle Eastern population migrated in Africa, took themselves African wives. So right there, the Lemba discount y'all with the original Hebrew thing again.
Yep.
I'm this again. Look at the genetic studies. They show you that these males, right, came from the Middle Eastern population. Came from the Middle Eastern population. This is not confusing. This is clear. And now the genetic studies, you know what I'm saying? They even may dispute that. But anyway, it still does not support that the sub-Saharan Africans, right, are the original nomadic people that you find in the Middle East. Simple, bro. Like, man, y'all, boy, they trying to get sophisticated, because
they try. That's why they gotta play. You gotta be careful with E1B. They like to play with E1B, and they don't even understand what's going on. You look, 36% of Greek men is a branch of E1B, E1B1B, and they are a branch of EM78, which is EV113 that developed in the Balkans. Are they us? No. You can look it up. So just because you see E1B anything doesn't mean it's you. It doesn't mean it's you.
I'm gonna blame you, GOZI. I'm gonna blame you.
I want to know.
Giving the rest of the class. You know, I ain't get the rest of the class show.
Dread. Hold on, Dread. I'm gonna call you in the door. I got
Thunder. They gotta take the class, yo. We ain't giving the class, yo. Thought they had it.
Oh man, Thunder. What's up?
Garfield, they're literally trying to fight conversations we had for the last 10 years, bro. That's what's funny, Garfield. You know how long we Hey, hold on. Everybody take a deep breath, right? Is this your deep turn right now, yo? That is so crazy. Like, this is fun. We got all the answers to the test.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? I gotta go to what we used to do the shows on again?
Blog Talk, yo, they all there, bro.
Yeah, all our stuff there.
Blog Talk.
Man, GOZI used to go in every Friday. I don't know what day. Man, listen, man.
Friday and Thursday.
Listen, we used to get so bored, we used to start battling each other over the king. Remember that? Yeah. We used to have fun, yo. Real talk. Yes, sir.
But you know the key though with the whole Gedmatch stuff is that you got this dude named Dante Fortson, and you got a couple of people, Sister E, and you know they all on brother Marine's channel. And what happened is they don't understand DNA to the point where, because DNA goes back, if they say they're part of the E family, you saying you're going back like 60 to 80,000 years. They don't understand that part. This ain't about no Israelite at that point. This is about human family. And I think this is what I told the dude that came on this morning. That's, yo, bro, take away your religion and take away your bias, and let's have a straight up conversation on the evidence. He couldn't do it. He couldn't hold it in. He couldn't. You know, but let me get this question from Thunder. I know Thunder got a question. Go ahead, Thunder.
Thunder, funny guy, boy.
So to me, that was a really interesting back and forth in the sense to where, so you have NGOZI and you got, I believe NGOZI and agreed with Garfield. I don't know, I'm being correct, but Garfield was basically saying he doesn't believe anybody from East Africa came into the transatlantic slave trade and whatnot. So on one level, trying to link yourself to that, to the Lemba through that is fallacious or whatnot. On another hand, they were talking about the DNA stuff, right? And so for the Gedmatch concept and controversy that's been going back and forth, there was a sister named Salam and I think G-Con and other people who were starting conversations about how that Israelites were using the wrong project in the Gedmatch to be able to link themselves to the Lemba concept. putting themselves through the world projects versus the Ethio Helix projects or whatnot. And so the pushback on that was that when we put our DNA, or Israelites put their DNA into the Ethio Helix concepts, that the Lemba DNA or the Lemba is not in that project, so it's not in the list that could potentially come up or whatnot. And so I asked a question about the world DNA projects, in the sense to, we're like, okay, so when NGOZI was saying that with the Gedmatch, etc., bottom line was that the DNA markers that are matching up with the African aspects of the DNA. So it's matching up to the Bantu DNA that the Lemba have, and not to any Semitic DNA that the Lemba have. And so my return fire question to him was, okay, so what is your perspective and what's your position on those same world projects that show that they link up to the Lemba, also showing that they link to Yemenite, Ethiopian, and Moroccan Jewish peoples? And so what he was saying is that, again, for all of those groups, from the Yemenite to the Ethiopian to the Moroccan, that they're connecting to the African DNA and not the Semitic DNA. So NGOZI is basically saying that there's no possible way, period, that genetically there's any Semitic ties to it or whatnot. It's all African DNA, etc., whatnot. So with that, I want to address something that the second question that I asked to Garfield, which was his position that there was no East Africans taken in the transatlantic slave trade and whatnot. And so with that, I want to share everyone some research I've recently done and whatnot that I found to be interesting. Again, keeping in mind that Kohen Hamandishe said that his people came from Israel, and went from Babylon to Israel to Yemen to Mozambique to Zimbabwe. Again, from Babylon to Israel to Yemen to Mozambique to Zimbabwe. So let me just share my screen one more again. And do it like this. Again, the Lemba in the transatlantic slave trade. East African slaves taken to the West. Were the Lemba enslaved in the Americas? Kohen Hamandishe, Lemba tribesman from the Buba clan, says that he believes that there were Lemba on slave ships to the Americas. Some claiming an Israelite identity in America are also claiming a genetic tie to the Lemba. Is this even possible or plausible? East Africa was a late participant in the transatlantic slave trade. In the 1770s, the French began to regularly trade in slaves in the French islands of Mauritius and Reunion Island, islands east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean. They got the slaves from those points on the east coast of the African coast. So they got them from the east coast of Africa and took them to these islands that were farther east to Madagascar. I'll show a picture of that in a little bit. And these slaves were taken in small numbers for a century prior to this, right? So from a century prior to 1770, right? Or the 1770s. But they were taken in small number. But when planters in Saint-Domingue, a French colony on what is now Haiti, demanded more labor, this slave trade, again, from East Africa became more regular and systematic. I have the link for this article that I'm getting this information from down below, by the way. So again, East Africa was a late participant in the transatlantic slave trade. And it started past the 1770s. So going to the next slide. It took slaves from Mozambique ports 120 days to reach Saint-Domingue, i.e. Haiti. While 30% of the slaves died on this long middle passage, it still soon became a profitable route for the slave traders to take. Soon a triangular slave trade developed between the western port cities of France in Bordeaux and Nantes, Saint-Domingue, again Haiti, and East Africa. The slaves were exchanged for sugar, coffee, and indigo. During the 1780s, the vessels used to transport these slaves grew to be able to carry up to 1,000 slaves on each vessel. Between 1789 and 1790, the triangular transatlantic East African slave trade reached its peak when 46 ships carrying more than 16,000 slaves circumnavigated the Cape. Almost all of these ships were bound for the sugar and coffee plantations of northern Saint-Domingue. Again, this is Haiti. So this is a concept of the the triangular slave trade that I'm talking about from East Africa, France, and Haiti. So we have on the left, you can see where Saint-Domingue and Haiti is, and it's showing you where the line of France is, right? So we go to France on the top right, and you can see where the ports of Bordeaux and Nantes are, where I just read from. And on the bottom right, you can see where Mozambique is. Then you go to the east of that, to the right, you see Madagascar. From the right of that, you see Mauritius. That's one of the islands I was talking about that they were sailing them from. So they would take them from Mozambique. This is a trip. And sometimes they would take them to Mauritius, and then they would sail them around the Cape. And this is the French doing this. This is a French trade. So we were all taught about a triangular slave trade in a whole nother spot, right? This is a French triangular slave trade going to East Africa and the Caribbean that we were never taught about in schools. But going further, many of the slaves that were taken from the coast of Mozambique had been seized or sold from deep within the interior of East Africa. It took, the Kohen Hamandishe said that the Lemba came from Yemen and went to Mozambique. And so Mozambique is the area where these slaves are being taken from, and also farther into the interior. Farther in the interior of Mozambique is Zimbabwe. Hold on, let me see if you can see it off the last picture. I'm not sure. Yeah, you can see it right there. Mozambique, then Zimbabwe. That's the interior from Mozambique. So Kohen Hamandishe also said whenever they traveled somewhere, people didn't they would leave some people behind, and they would lose contact and whatnot. So you had people in Yemen, you had people in Mozambique, and people in Zimbabwe that were all Lemba populations. But going further, it took 35 days to make it from Mozambique to Cape Town in South Africa. They're taking a roundabout way of getting there, right? Slaves thought not strong enough to make the journey to Saint-Domingue were sold in Cape Town. In some cases, all the slaves were sold at the Cape. This is where it gets even more interesting, right? Here's where we have artifacts that back this up, right? In the 1980s, the remains of the Portuguese slave ship, the São José, were found off the coast of Cape Town. Discoveries through South African and Portuguese archives confirmed that the São José had set sail from Lisbon, Portugal in April of 1794 and had sunk off the coast of Cape Town in December of 1794 with 212 of the believed 400 or 500 slaves aboard as cargo having died in this event. The ship was heading from Portuguese Mozambique to colonial Brazil. Again, I have the articles talking about this link down below, family. 2 years after the São José sank off the coast of Cape Town, merchants at Mozambique Island opened up a new slave trade with the Americas, sending slaves to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and the Spanish Viceroyalty of Rio de la Plata, which consisted of lands in modern-day Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So this is what the Portuguese did, right? So the Portuguese took them from Mozambique and took them to Brazil, and then took them to Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina. All that blue was one land called Rio de la Plata. That was Spanish land, the Spanish Viceroyalty. So far we have the French and we have the Portuguese taking slaves from Mozambique and the interior of from thereof to Haiti, to Brazil, and to all of those countries in South America, in what was then Rio de la Plata, in Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina, in Chile, I believe is what it said. Again, now this is from a Smithsonian article. Again, the history of the São José slave ship and the site thereof. So the picture on the right is the actual site that this is a picture from this article where they were diving to go check out this site. The São José was one of the earliest voyages of the slave trade between Mozambique and Brazil, a massive trade in human beings which continued well into the 19th century. More than 400,000 East Africans are estimated to have made the journey between 1800 and 1865. This is just between the Portuguese taking slaves from Mozambique to Brazil. Just that. This doesn't even include the French taking slaves. This number 400,000 doesn't even include the French numbers. Again, were East Africans taken to the West? East African slaves taken from Mozambique coast and the interior of Africa would have been present during the slave insurrection of the Haitian Revolution, which took place from 1791 to 1804 in the French colony of Saint-Domingue. One more time. East African slaves taken from the Mozambique coasts and the interior of Africa would have been present during the slave insurrection of the Haitian Revolution, which took place from 1791 to 1804 in the French colony of Saint-Domingue. Planters from Saint-Domingue seeking refuge from the revolution migrated to the territory of Orleans. This is the modern-day Louisiana family with their African slaves. The largest slave rebellion in U.S. history took place in the territory of Orleans in 1811 after this migration happened. So you had the slaves that were kicking up so cold in Haiti that they ended up getting their own land, right? And during this revolt, you had the planters who were using them as slaves, trying to flee the revolt and go to modern day Louisiana, but they took their slaves with them. And after having migrated to Louisiana, again, the biggest slave revolt in American history takes place there. Now, I'm not saying it's connected to the Lemba. I'm just saying it's interesting how there is a connection with these particular revolutions and these particular slaves, and how many of them come from East Africa, etc. How many of them come from East Africa? What's also interesting is when you actually check out the DNA of people from Haiti and whatnot, they have a large percentage of DNA that comes from Southeastern Africa. So a lot of my brothers and sisters here in America, they're testing it at high percentages, like from 10 to 15%, etc., with the Southeastern Bantu DNA genetics and whatnot, right? And again, when they take these DNA tests, Lemba and other people in East Africa are not in the charts, are not in the system for them to come up for their DNA to show Lemba like on like the 23andMe's and the Ancestry DNAs, etc., whatnot, right? However, when they plug him into Gedmatch, the Gedmatch is like, no, you actually rock with the Lemba a bit. You know what I'm saying? So again, what's interesting about that is they have DNA that's only 10 to 15% Southeastern African. In Haiti, go check out the DNA test online, fam. You got people from Haiti pulling up over half of their DNA coming from Southeastern Africa, or up to half, something like that, like 40 to 60%, something of that range, right? Either or, it's nuts. It's of a high level, which makes so here's this migration makes sense, right? It's very plausible and possible that you have a population coming in from East Africa into Haiti, right? So they're going to have a large percentage of East African DNA currently still. If that population was taken to the Americas, like Louisiana, etc., whatnot, right? Mississippi, etc., all them type of places, right? Then it stands to reason over time that they're going to have less DNA or less of the East African DNA that the people of Haiti do, right? But it stands to reason that they're still going to have a decent percentage of East African DNA. So again, from what I understand, they're not saying that the people who are claiming Lemba genetics, they're not saying that everybody's Lemba, but they're saying that there are people, there's a pocket of people who are testing to have genetic ties to the Lemba. And it seems as though there is a plausible migration and enslavement that would have them going from East Africa to the Americas, not having to go through Central Africa into West Africa, but completely bypassing all of that and going straight to the Caribbean and then further into the Gulf of Mexico, etc. And not only that, being taken to Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Uruguay, and Paraguay, to the tune of over 400,000 in that area. So again, were Lemba enslaved in the Americas? I honestly don't know. Further genetic testing would need to be done to conclusively answer that question. But is this even possible or plausible? 100% yes, it is very much so, given that the slave trade done by the French and others from Mozambique to the Americas had a large population of people coming over this way. And not only that, they went to places in the Caribbean. So again, it also needs to be understood at one point when the slave trade was cut off in the West, that they just traded slaves from within the West. So even from Brazil and in the Spanish viceroyalty and whatnot, you still could have had slaves that ended up here. And that gets even trickier, right? So is it possible and plausible? 100%. And there's a bunch of viable routes that need to be investigated, and falsified or proven. Let me see if I got anything more on this. No. But yeah, family. Big up to my man, Kimo Ben Israel in the chat. Shalom, fam. But not too many people watching. I will drop the link in the chat to see if anybody wants to jump on. If nobody wants to jump on, I will jump off because I know there's a bunch of other live streams going on right now. It's busy as Friday. People doing their thing. People had a lot to talk about. People talking about these pews. People talking about urban apologists. People talking about this DNA. People talking about all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give this a quick second. If I don't see anyone jump on, I'm just going to X this off and say peace to the family. So yeah, I don't see anybody jumping on. So with that, I appreciate y'all for watching and for your time and whatnot. Bless and big up to everyone who tuned in. And let me know what you think down below in terms of the information that was brought out. I didn't know about these triangular slave trades that were done between France, Mozambique, and the Caribbean, and also Portugal, Mozambique, and Brazil, and in South America, etc. Whatnot. So I hope y'all learned something. Garfield, I hope you learned something, brother man. Not like a gotcha thing, you know what I'm saying? It's just sharing information and whatnot. But I definitely do want to have a further conversation on this genetics concept and this Gedmatch and this DNA stuff, because there's a lot of discrepancies within the DNA conversation and whatnot that need to get addressed and really need to get hashed out real slow, because it's a really complicated conversation that I think people are rushing through. But with that, family, I'm gonna close this thing out. Keep this one shorter and sweeter, you know what I'm saying? But before I go, as always, family, do not forget to donate to Sal. Big up to Sal Showtime, giving us a platform. This is 11 seasons deep, over a decade of debates, family, a decade of discussions and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So big up to Sal Showtime. Please don't forget to bless him. So with that, family, I'm going to close this joint out. And I'm going to say peace and love.